Hello, I'm Ghost Stefana, and I'm going to tell you what happens in BioWare's Dragon Age Inquisition. I recap these games for people who don't have time to play the game, but if you do have time, I do really recommend playing this one. It's fantastic and remains one of my personal favourites. In case this is your first foray into the Dragon Age world, I will briefly explain certain terms, organisations and races as we come to it. Spoilers are of course ahead, and if you do find this video useful, all I ask is that you hit subscribe. Let us begin. After spending 4 weeks carefully designing my character, the game opens with our character in a very strange place, which we later learn is the Fade. The Fade is another realm, which is tied to the realm of Thedas, the game's setting. We're then chased by some weird spider things, and I think this isn't what I fucking signed up for. I thought it was just about dragons. This golden lady then gives us a helping hand and pulls us back into the realm of Thedas. We awake in captivity, being questioned by a woman named Cassandra and Liliana, whom some may recognise from previous Dragon Age games. They reveal a strange green light emitting from our hands and explain the events which preceded the game's dramatic opening scene. Divine Justinia, almost like a game version of the Pope, called a conclave to attempt to stop the war between the mages and the Templars, which in part broke out due to the events of Dragon Age 2. During the peace talks at the Temple of Sacred Ashes, there was an explosion, killing Divine Justinia, and since then, a large green breach and several smaller ones have opened in the sky, which demons are now passing through. So, you know, just a normal Monday. We're led outside by Cassandra and eventually freed from our binds to allow us to fight off some demons, with the promise that there will be a trial, as many still feel we were responsible for whatever has happened. Sometime later, we encounter a dwarf named Varric and a mage named Solus fighting off some demons. After helping them, Solus uses the mark on our hand to close one of these smaller rifts. After this, Cassandra surmises that the mark could also be used to close the main breach in the sky. When attempting to close said main breach, we see a flashback to what happened just before the explosion. An unnamed bad guy had Divine Justinia captive before our playable character stumbled across it and said,
"What's going on here?"
Which, of course, is the natural chilled response you make when you see an 8-foot-tall demon levitating an old lady. Honestly, fucking hate that delivery. However, despite the terrible voice acting, we do stabilise the breach, not sealing it, but preventing it from expanding further. We awake sometime later in the town of Haven, and we soon learn that people are referring to us as the Herald of Andraste. Andraste being a godlike being, a bit like Jesus, just without the cool bread and wine shit. People think that we have been specifically chosen as Thedas' saviour by Andraste herself, a belief we can deny or embrace. With the Chantry in disarray, the Chantry is basically the church and also governing body of the world, Cassandra and Liliana form the Inquisition, an individual group focused on closing the rift and finding those responsible. And in the space of 15 in-game minutes, we've gone from being public enemy number 1 to basically, like one of the Power Rangers. Go figure. With the newly formed inner circle of the Inquisition consisting of Cassandra, Liliana, Commander Cullen, and Lady Josephine Montillier, we are tasked with seeking out a nun named Mother Giselle, and also to try and recruit assets to the Inquisition's cause. We travel to the hinterlands and meet Mother Giselle, who says the Inquisition won't work without the support of the Chantry, and that we should go and appeal to the surviving clerics and get their support. And I think, alright, that could probably have been an email instead of coming all this way to meet you. We travel to Val Royeaux to appeal to the Chantry, but are shunned and labelled a false prophet of Andraste. And I'm just like, bloody hell, I wish someone would just punch this lady in the head. Well, it was more a figure of speech, but okay. The Tyson Fury enthusiast is a Templar, an order dedicated to keeping mages in line and, ironically, protecting the Chantry. The group's leader, Lord Seeker Lucius, also berates us and states the Templars will not support the Inquisition before leaving, so, all in all, a pretty successful trip. While in Val Royeaux, we meet Sarah, who is recruited to our ranks and serves as a companion. Many others are recruited throughout the game, but I'll only mention them when they impact the main story. Upon returning to Haven, we're told we must take a side in the Mages and Templar War and essentially choose one faction to attempt to ally with. There's pros and cons to both sides, and whichever side you choose will lock you into a long quest line tied to that faction. Whichever side you don't choose will eventually become your enemy, siding with the mysterious demon from earlier. Purely because I've played the game before and I think their questline is much more fun, I opted to recruit the Templars. We meet with some of the Templars to convince them to join our cause, but we soon realise that some of them, now known as Red Templars, have betrayed the Templar Order and sided with our enemy, whom they call the Elder One. We fight our way through the Templar stronghold and confront Lord Seeker Lucius, who then grabs our tits and pulls us through a portal. The portal leads us to what is essentially a bad dream, and we are plagued by visions and foreshadowings that often come via the form of our friends and companions. Along the journey, we find this dude standing upside down. The dude reveals himself to be Cole, a spirit, but unlike most in the game, he is a friendly one. He explains that the Lord Seeker has been replaced by an envy demon, which is a demon which impersonates people of power and uses their positions to sow corruption, hence this demon corrupting the Templar Order. The demon attempts to become the Herald before Cole steps in, allowing us time to nut it in the face and escape the dream sequence. We manage to rally the non-corrupted Templars led by Knight Captain Barris to stand against the corrupted Templars and the Envy Demon. After defeating the Templars, we're forced to face the demon in its natural form, and would you believe it? It looks like your mum. Naturally, we win and are then faced with a decision regarding the remaining Templars. We can force the Templars to disband as a group and conscript them into joining the Inquisition forces, or allow them to remain their own order but join us as partners. This decision isn't narrative important and only affects your relationship with your companions, as some will disapprove of your decision. With the Templars' help, we once again attempt to close the breach, and this time it works and closes for good. Back at Haven, the Inquisition celebrates before we notice an army approaching. A Tevinter mage arrives at our gates, attempting to warn us about the impending attack, and I'm like, yeah, I already know because I just bloody saw him. His name is Dorian, and Dorian is the supporting character in the Mage's questline, like Cole was in the Templar one. Cole will play the role of Dorian here if you chose the other way around. Dorian explains the mages are now under the service of the Venatori, a rogue band of mages from the country of Tevinter. They in turn are in service to a woman named Calpurnia, who serves as second in command to the Elder One, who we see in the flesh for the first time, if we can call it flesh. The battle goes in our favour until a bloody dragon arrives and upsets the odds, and oh my god, it's bloody Sauron. It's Sauron from Lord of the Rings. Oh no, it's not. No, it's just the Elder One. He just looks a bit like him. Full name is Corypheus. He claims he is here for the anchor, which refers to the mark on the Herald's hand, and he attempts to remove it. However, this fails, and Corypheus learns the anchor is bound to us permanently, in which he tries to kill us. But the Herald smartly causes an avalanche, allowing her time to escape. We later reunite with our survivors, and Solus claims the orb that the Elder One carries is of elven make and is what caused the breach and the explosion. After leading our people across the cold wilderness in search of sanctuary, Solus takes us to this huge fucking castle, which is just, conveniently empty. Don't you just love video games? And Skyhold, as it is known, becomes the Inquisition's new home. The Inquisition Inner Circle decides that it needs a leader, and we, who is a prisoner mere moments ago, are crowned Inquisitor, and we hold this ridiculously oversized sword aloft. Varric later introduces the Inquisitor to Hawk, the hero and playable character of Dragon Age 2. Varric and Hawk both faced Corypheus in that game, but assumed him dead. Hawk explains that the Grey Wardens, who are an order dedicated to killing Darkspawn, who are a type of demon, have been going missing, and he fears that they may have been corrupted by Corypheus. We travel to Crestwood and meet his ally Stroud. This could be a different person if you're importing a save from Dragon Age 2, depending on your choices in that game. Stroud reveals that the Grey Wardens have received a calling, essentially telling them they were dying. It's his belief this is Corypheus' doing. He also explains that Commander Clarel is preparing for a blood ritual, which she believes will prevent future Darkspawn invasions known as Blights. At the ritual site, we find Magister Erimond, a Venatori who seems to have corrupted the Grey Wardens to perform his will. The ritual consists of turning Wardens into demons themselves, and in turn, the Warden mage that did the binding is then bound to Corypheus' will. I know it's a little bit confusing, but stick with me. The Inquisitor attacks Erimond, who then flees to a nearby castle known as Adamant Castle. Pussy. Inquisition forces arrive and lay siege to the castle, and a battle with the corrupted Grey Wardens breaks out. Despite the fight, we confront Warden leader Clarel and attempt to make her see the error of her ways. If you're successful in your speech, Clarel will see through the corruption and will fight on your side, but not before Erimond summons a dragon. Despite her redemption, Clarel soon becomes dragon food. As a result of the battle, the platform breaks and the Inquisitor and her companions begin to fall to their death. The Inquisitor instinctively uses the anchor to open a rift to break their fall. The rift transports our group into the Fade, where they are met by the spirit of Divine Justinia. With her help, we regain our memory of the events of the Conclave and realise it was corrupted Grey Wardens that helped Corypheus capture the Divine. We also learn that the anchor was created by touching the orb, which in turn caused the explosion. The Divine later sacrificed herself so that we could escape the Fade, meaning the golden figure in the opening moments of the game was in fact Divine Justinia, not Andraste, debunking the Herald of Andraste theory. Our journey through the Fade culminates in having to defeat the nightmare demon that has been corrupting the Grey Warden's dreams. The demon proves difficult to beat, and one of our group must remain behind to allow the others time to escape. We choose between Hawk or Stroud. Purely thinking with a strategic head and wanting the Grey Wardens to help the Inquisition, I thought keeping one of the Grey Warden commanders alive might make things more easier, so I sadly sacrificed Hawk.
Say goodbye to Varric for me.
After escaping the Fade, BioWare chucks us another decision, whether to banish the Grey Wardens or allow them to join the Inquisition. I allowed them to join the Inquisition, which sees them join us in future fights and assist in some side quests. This again mainly just affects companion approval levels. With Corypheus' demon army plans prevented, we follow a new lead, an assassination plot. We learn that Corypheus is planning to kill Empress Selene, the Empress of Orlais. To prevent this, we head to a ball at the Royal Palace. The ball is no mere ball. When there, we meet Duke Gaspar, a noble who is vying to overthrow Selene for the throne. We can essentially decide who sits on the throne by finding incriminating evidence on certain parties around the palace. Also at the ball, we meet Morrigan, a witch who acts as advisor to Empress Selene, and a recurring character from the Dragon Age series. While roaming the palace, we run into a trap set by Grand Duchess Florian, sister to Gaspard, who reveals herself to be the assassin. We of course escape the ambush, and then we can choose our next step. If the player wishes, we can let Florian proceed with her plan and kill Selene. It all comes down to who you wish to be sitting on the throne. In my playthrough, I expose Florian and prevent the assassination. The outcome of the throne depends on which evidence you found during the mission on each aspiring ruler. Gaspar can rule alone. Briala, Selene's former lover, can also rule alone. Selene can continue to rule alone. Gaspar can rule with Briala. All three can rule together in a kind of coalition, or the option that I got, Briala and Selene reconcile their love and rule together. Regardless of the outcome, the Inquisition gains the support of the Crown, and Morrigan also joins us as a special guest advisor. Back in Skyhold, we learn that Corypheus is marching his troops into the Arbor Wilds, and Morrigan theorizes what he seeks there. She introduces us to Illuvians, ancient elven gateways, which she claims Corypheus seeks in the Arbor Wilds. We tail Corypheus into the Temple of Mythal, where we learn that he seeks the Well of Sorrows. However, his way is blocked by ancient elves who protect the temple. Attempting to cross their magical barrier, Corypheus basically blows up and dies. Oh great, let's go play FIFA. But of course, the big ugly freak comes back to life because, you know, video games. Before we can reach this sought-after Well of Sorrows, Calpurnia stands in our way. Two options are possible here. We can, depending on the outcome of certain side quests, convince her to stand down and return home to Tevinter, abandoning Corypheus, or we can kill her. Either way, we get past her and access the well. We learn that the well is a collection of ancient elven knowledge passed on by generations of elves, which could help us in our upcoming fight. One of the ancient elven warriors warns us that consuming the well will grant knowledge, but will also be forever in service of the elven god Mythal. Either Morrigan or the Inquisitor can enter the well. The idea of a shit ton of knowledge sounded pretty good to me, so off I went.
If anyone is to use the well, it will be me.
We drink from the well and a strange cutscene begins in which spooky voices and visuals occur before we pass out. Note, allowing Morrigan to drink doesn't change the outcome, just minor dialogue changes. Before we can work out what the fuck has just happened, Corypheus arrives and we're forced to flee through a nearby Illuvian. Our little dip in the well allows us to learn that Corypheus has invested part of his soul into his dragon, which is basically the plot of Harry Potter. The dragon is like the snake was to Voldemort. Fortunately, Corypheus only made one Horcrux. Kill the snake, and Corypheus can also be killed. We also begin to hear voices, one of which tells us that we must summon the god, Mythal. With Morrigan, we head to Mythal's altar and summon her, and we soon learn that Mythal is actually Flemeth, an ancient witch and a previous Dragon Age character, and Morrigan's mother. The relationship between Morrigan and her mother is strained, to say the least, and the younger witch tries to attack her, but through the Inquisitor, Mythal stops her. As the ancient elf warned, we will always be bound to Mythal's will. Mythal then summons a dragon, which will aid the Inquisitor in her fight against Corypheus' dragon. All feels very Game of Thrones, doesn't it? Back at Skyhold, the final fight begins and we confront Corypheus. His dragon arrives, but I'm like, I've got one too. And after being defeated by our boy, the Elder One's dragon dies. In the final fight, we steal the orb from Corypheus, notice another Harry Potter parallel there, and finally get rid of the annoying old prick for good. In the aftermath, Solus mournfully looks over the now broken orb. He then cryptically says,
"It was not supposed to happen this way, no matter what comes. I want you to know you shall always have my respect."
We reunite with our friends and then find that Solus has now gone. Back at Skyhold, the people celebrate and we see a montage which explains the outcomes of various events based on our decisions, one of which sees a new divine elected, which in my game was Liliana. In a post-credit but very important scene, we see Mythal meet with a person that she calls Dreadwolf, which you'll note is the name of the next Dragon Age game. We soon learn that this person is Solas, and he gave the orb to Corypheus before the events of this game. Dun dun dun. In a further twist, Solus then seems to kill his old friend and absorb some kind of power, ending the game and setting up the sequel, but also setting up the Trespasser DLC. If you want to find out more about Solus and his motives, I recommend playing that DLC or watching my recap of it, which you'll find on this page once I have done it. Thank you for watching, and like I said at the start, if you enjoyed my recap, please do hit subscribe. Thank you.